Vous êtes toutes bien d'un bout à l'autre du pays?
Hello, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well from one part of the country to the other.
I'll call this meeting to order. Welcome to meeting number 13 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on Agriculture and Agri-Food. Pursuant to the motion adopted by the House on May 26, 2020, the committee may continue to sit virtually until Monday, September 21st, to consider matters that are related to COVID-19 pandemic. I think I may not have to read this one. Mr. Clerk, did we have to, I think.
Yeah, if you can, that could be good information for the benefit of all members.
Okay, I'll continue. Okay, September 21st, to consider matters related to COVID-19 pandemic and other matters. Certain limitation on the virtual committee meeting held until now are now removed. As just mentioned, the committee is now able to consider other matters. And in addition to receiving evidence, the committee may also consider motions as we normally do. As stipulated in the latest order of reference from the House, all motions shall be decided by way of a recorded vote. Finally, the House has also authorized our committee to conduct some of our proceeding in camera, specifically for the purpose of considering draft reports or the selection of witnesses. I would like to outline a few rules to follow. Interpretation in this video conference will work very much like a regular committee meeting. You have the choice at the bottom of your screen of either floor, English, or French. When you intervene, please make sure that your language channel is set to the language that you intend to speak, not the floor. This is very important. It will reduce the number of times we need to stop because the interpretation is inaudible for our participants. It will maximize the time we spend exchanging with each other. So I'll ask all our witnesses with a nod if you could let us know that they have understood this, just to make sure that everything will go right. So all our witnesses, if you could nod that you have, you know how this will function. And just hang on there. Okay, now I've got you all on my screen. So it looks like everybody understood. If there's an issue, we will help you out. And also, before speaking, please wait till I recognize you by name. And when you're ready to speak, you can click on the microphone icon to activate your mic. Alors aussi, assurez-vous que votre micro est éteint lorsque vous ne parlez pas.
Make sure that your microphone is off when you're not speaking. I believe we're all ready to begin, and I'd like to welcome our witnesses for the first hour today. We have the Chicken Farmers of Canada, Mr. Benoit Fontaine, President. Welcome, sir. And Mr. Michel Laliberté, Executive Director. Good day, Mr. Laliberté. We also have GCC, Grain Growers of Canada, Jeff Nielsen, Chair of the Board, and Mr. Aaron Grorilik, Executive Director. Also, from the Canadian Canola Growers Association, Mr. Dave Carey, Vice President, Government and Industry Relations. So welcome to all our witnesses, and we'll begin with 7 minutes of presentation time for preliminary comments from our witnesses. And I will ask the Chicken Farmers of Canada to begin. You can share your 7 minutes if you'd like, and I'm setting the clock now. Thank you very much, Mr. Finnegan, and thank you for the invitation. Welcome to all online. As you've said, my name is Benoit Fontaine. I'm a chicken producer.
Là, ça fonctionne, je crois.
Should be working now. Well, go ahead, speak. I'm speaking in French, and I should be on the French channel. Okay, I had put none because I was going to go back and forward. No, you can't speak in none. You have to speak in one or the other. All right, I will answer the English questions in English, but for the presentation, I will present in French. Be easier for me, too. Please. Stainbridge Station in Quebec, in Brome-Missisquoi area. I'm the president of the Chicken Farmers of Canada. As you said, our sector contributes to about $8 billion to the GDP in this country, supports over 109,000 jobs and $1.9 billion in taxes to the government. The 2,876 Chicken Farmers of Canada are proud to raise the #1 protein meat in Canada during good times and bad, including this period of pandemic. As you can see throughout the country, the crisis of COVID-19 has affected all sectors. Chicken Producers of Canada were pleased to hear the announcement made by the government as to the support for the agri and agri-food sector. However, we should underline that these measures do not go far enough to support Canadian agriculture as a whole, and particularly the chicken producers. In order to ensure food security of our population, our chicken raisers and processors need to deal with a lot of unprecedented stress because of this pandemic. Current market conditions are unprecedented given this famous or notorious pandemic. Food services, which represent usually about 40% of the market, have seen a sharp decline in their demand almost overnight. 40% is enormous. And at retail, while there was an initial surge in sales caused by consumer stockpiling perhaps, the demand has now stabilized, and the resulting situation is a total demand below the usual volumes. So what does this mean for the farmers? The rapid decrease in food services meant that farmers and processors were left with surplus production for a short period of time. Thankfully, the flexibility provided by supply management allowed our board of directors to react quickly and to adjust production for the coming months, hoping, of course, to avoid the worst-case scenario that would be a complete depopulation of our flocks. On the 14th of April, the Board of Directors reduced allocations for May by 12.6% for May 10 to July 4. And again, it was further adjusted for the period 5 of July to the end of August by 11%. This choice was done under our own initiative in order to act responsibly and satisfy Canadian demand without too much surpluses. While we've been able to adjust production, this adjustment doesn't entirely alleviate the stresses on farmers and processors during this period. Some processing plants may have to reduce the quantity of the slaughter and processing volumes due to physical distancing requirements, due to absenteeism of plant employees, or full closure of some plants in order to isolate the workers and to deep clean all the facilities. Processors are working in close collaboration among themselves and with the producers in order to redirect birds if and when necessary. This was the case in early April in Ontario and in May in British Columbia. However, there are, in fact, limits to the number of birds that can be processed by other plants if a specific plant significantly reduces its activity or is obliged to shut down completely. This reduction of the throughput and the risk of plant shutdowns creates tremendous stress, animal health and welfare challenges for the farmers, and increases the risk of having to depopulate their flocks. Farmers don't take the depopulation lightly. In addition to impacting the food supply of Canadians, it is a loss of their flocks, to which we have devoted a lot of time, care, and money to raise, leading to financial losses. In the event where processors do not have the capacity to process chickens, farmers have to work quickly with their processor partners to determine the next steps. And at this point in time, we have not received government reassurance that the live price of the birds would be covered. Based on the government commitment, the program Agri-Recovery will cover up to 90% of the costs of depopulation. However, this does not address the value of the flocks being depopulated, nor the administrative burden on the farmer, and the efforts of provincial governments to trigger initiatives that would provide their portion of BRM funding. Following discussions with all levels of government, we have been reminded under the Health of Animals Act, depopulation is supported in instances of disease. We are very aware that this fact was in fact developed for disease situations. However, what we're dealing with right now, with high results on the processing capacity, will have the same effect for the producers as if it was an animal disease. We're slightly disappointed that the government has not looked at this well-functioning model to support chicken sector this time. While business management suite of programs are designed to address fluctuations in income to support farmers in times of need, it does not work for chicken farmers in cases of thank you, Mr. Fontaine, but unfortunately 7 minutes are up, so perhaps you'll be able to add information through the question period. Now, the Canadian grain growers are Grain Growers of Canada next. Whoever wants to take the 7 minutes.
Starts now.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Aaron Garlick and myself will split our time, and I'll quickly make my opening remarks. Once again, thank you for this opportunity to speak in front of your committee today. I am Jeff Nielsen. I farm in Central Alberta near Olds, and I am chair of the Grain Growers Canada, which is a national voice for grain and oilseed and pulse producers through our 15 regional and national grower associations. To put it simply, we are extremely disappointed in the support offered to farmers to date. The recent $252 million announcement directed limited funding to select sectors, while leaving others feeling totally ignored. Let me be clear: we do not expect to be your main sole or focus right now, but we also do not want to be felt like an afterthought. We do not have to look far to see the different level of support for agriculture in the face of COVID-19. Our direct competitor to the south has offered agriculture support package well into the billions, which recently just $6 billion going directly to crop producers. For the benefit of the committee, let me give you some background on the state of the grain industry. Certain grain commodities, such as corn, have been significantly and directly impacted by COVID. With a decrease in demand for fuel, ethanol plants are running at a very diminished capacity, and we do not see or expect a return to normal anytime soon. Soybean cash receipts have fallen nearly 40% over the last 2 years. Myself, I'm a malt barley producer. Malt barley demand is down significantly due to the fact that naturally the restaurants and hospitality industry has been affected by COVID, and naturally the decreased demand for beer. Barley cash receipts are down 21% in 2020 from the same time last year. Malt contracts are being pushed well into fall for the current crop year. And for new crop, contracts have been asked to be reduced due to the fact that we currently have an oversupply of malt barley. Feed prices are very volatile. It's a reflection of what may happen to the U.S. crop will definitely affect our feed prices. Black seed cash receipts have dropped 33% in the last year. Demand for pulses have remained stable, but there is the concern of lack of container shipping. A problem complicated by naturally the blockades this past year, port quarantines, and decreased cargo ship movement at this time. A regular amount of uncertainty is typical for us farmers. We plan for this, but these are not normal times. Recent years have been disastrous for many of us in terms of weather, rising costs, growing market access challenges. In fact, the Canadian farmers were not well positioned going into this pandemic, according to StatsCan. In 2018, farm incomes nearly fell by 21%, while realized net farm income fell by 45%. While StatsCan data from this week does show a rise in income for 2019 for the first time in 3 years, that does not give an accurate picture of agriculture. Excluding cannabis, which seems to be a new agricultural crop, crop revenues on the national level have decreased over 1%.
Mr. Nielsen, could you move your mic a little bit closer because we're having some difficulty sometimes in hearing. Can you try that again? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, my apologies. Talking about StatsCan information, this only heightens the concern of our ability to service farm debt loads, which are now on a record high of 115 billion, an increase of nearly 30 billion in the past 4 years. I do not want to overstate this, but in reality, that is our industry. Our industry is hurting, and it's not easy for us older guys like myself to admit. We need support. I'll turn it over to Aaron.
Thank you, Jeff. And Mr. Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. It looks good, so give it a try. I think we should be good.
Excellent, thank you. And now for the good news. We believe that there are easily achievable solutions to help farmers and to protect the Canadian economy. We have very specific and very actionable requests for you today. First, as a sector, we are asking for 2 critical changes to the Agri-Stability Program. The changes are as follows. Coverage must immediately be adjusted to cover losses starting at 85%, retroactive to 2019, and for the remainder of the Canadian Agricultural Partnership. And the reference margin limits must be removed. These 2 simple changes will give farms the confidence to keep operating. As members of the committee know, we are not alone in seeking changes to agri-stability. The fact is that this change is the one that unites essentially all agricultural sectors. While it is a positive signal that the application deadline for the program was extended, we do not see it inspiring more farmers to apply. Farmers simply don't see enough value in the program to put in the time and effort required to enroll. And unfortunately, an online calculator is not going to change their minds. However, we do commend the federal government on some of the other business risk management programs for farmers that do work well, including Agri-Invest and crop insurance. These are success stories, and they are a valuable tool for farmers, one that cannot afford to have funds diverted away to bolster or address the concerns that we have cited here today. These programs need to continue to be complementary in nature. Finally, we understand the cost of the current program is shared 60-40 between the federal and provincial governments, and that those provincial governments are currently facing their own financial challenges. This is why we are seeking leadership from the federal government on this. We need our federal leaders to renegotiate the cost load. As we look towards recovery, this is definitely not the time for government to abandon its vision for agriculture as a high potential sector for economic growth in Canada. As stated in the report of Canada's economic strategy tables, Canada has the potential to be one of the top 5 competitors on the international stage, increasing agriculture, agri-food and seafood exports by 32% to $85 billion by 2025. This is a laudable goal, and it is one that the entire sector supports. But it can only come to fruition if Canadian farms remain solvent and are able to succeed. We are at a crossroads. We can choose to support Canadian farmers now and allow for that potential to be realized. Or we can choose to abandon Canadian farmers and lose the vision for a real economic recovery and future prosperity for our farms.
Thank you, Ms. Gourillock. Sorry, we're out of time. I'm going to have to move on. So from the Canadian Canola Growers Association, Mr. Carey, up to 7 minutes. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the invitation to appear before your committee today on your study, Canadian Response to the COVID-19 Pandemic. It's a pleasure to be here on behalf of Canada's 43,000 canola farmers. CCGA represents canola farmers from Ontario to British Columbia on national and international issues, policies, and programs that impact their farm success. CCGA is also an official administrator of the federal government's Advanced Payments Program. For the last 35 years, we've been providing cash advances to help farmers better market their crops and finance their operations. Developed in Canada, canola is a staple of Canadian agriculture, as well as Canadian science and innovation. Today, it is Canada's most widely seeded crop and is the largest farm cash receipt of any agriculture commodity, earning Canadian farmers over $8.6 billion in 2019, which is a decline of $700 million in 2018. Annually, the canola sector provides $26.7 billion to the Canadian economy and provides for 250,000 jobs. Exports drive canola's success. More than 90% of all canola grown in Canada is exported as seed, oil, or meal. There continues to be global demand for canola, but blocked market access coupled with economic downturn from COVID-19 are putting considerable pressure on farmers. 2019-20 canola prices lagged the previous year and farmers face significant market uncertainty. Continuation of this trend could significantly reduce the canola sector's contribution to Canada's economy, impacting employment and wages. Urgent efforts are needed to restore stability and position canola as a dependable economic contributor to Canada's post-COVID-19 economy. To unleash the full potential of Canada's canola farmers, the following actions are requested from the federal government. Opening and diversifying markets, ensuring farmers have access to risk management tools that are effective, and facilitating global competitiveness through access to innovation. On the trade side, farmers are well positioned to provide safe, reliable canola supplies, both domestically and to the world, but require rules-based, predictable framework to grow our exports. Promoting this framework will be even more important to counter protectionist policies post-COVID-19 as countries turn inward and look to shore up their domestic economies. Trade is key to the world's economic recovery, and modernization of the World Trade Organization is essential to ensure borders and supply chains remain open. From the canola sector to achieve its full potential, reopening the China market must remain a priority. For canola farmers, China was their largest market, representing 40% of canola exports. It's been over a year since market restrictions were imposed, and farmers continue to struggle with market uncertainty and reduced prices. In 2019, canola seed exports to China were a third of 2018, leading to a 26% decrease in export value. The impact of such a large trade disruption has highlighted the need to diversify our markets, and to do so, additional resources are required, particularly in the Asia Pacific, to help understand evolving regulatory requirements and to address market access issues. In addition, launching FTA negotiations with the Association of Southeast Asian Nations and expansion of the TPP could generate new market opportunities and create a more predictable trading environment. Canada's domestic biofuel market also presents an important opportunity to diversify the canola market, and the upcoming Clean Fuel Standard, or CFS, provides an opportunity to realize this potential. Canadian canola is a high-quality biodiesel feedstock, currently used in Canada, the US, and the EU. It has the potential to not only spur economic investment, but to lower greenhouse gas emissions. The CFS, which is currently under development, could triple the domestic demand for canola-based biofuels, providing much-needed market stability for farmers, increasing value-added investments, and making real and quantifiable contributions to GHG reductions. To leverage this potential opportunity, the government must consider immediate improvements to the regulatory design of the CFS, including providing the necessary demand signal for biofuels by requiring all diesel fuel to contain a minimum 5% renewable content. The current standard mandates 2%. If this requirement isn't stated in the CFS, increasing the renewable content to 5% to the diesel pool would conservatively use 1.3 million metric tons of Canadian canola and reduce GHG emissions by 3.5 million tons of CO2 equivalent per year. This would represent new domestic demand for Canadian canola that is not subject to trade disruptions and is roughly the size of the Japanese export market in value. A clear and strong demand signal is critical. The time is now to leverage this opportunity for biofuels to spur economic investment in Canada with no cost to the government. Business risk management, or BRM. Canola farmers need urgent action to improve BRM programming. Family farms are facing unprecedented challenges and uncertainty due not only to the current pandemic, but also ongoing trade restrictions. Net farm incomes fell 45% in 2018, and in Manitoba and Saskatchewan, net farm incomes again saw significant declines in 2019. In addition, farm debt levels continue to increase. Farmers rely on BRM programs to help manage the risks beyond their control. Immediate solutions and focused investment are required to improve programming and provide farmers with effective tools to manage increased volatility and uncertainty that in turn will support their ability to contribute to rural economies and economic growth. The following BRM change is needed immediately. Agri-stability coverage adjusted to cover losses starting at 85% of historic reference margins with no reference margin limits. And as we prepare for the next policy framework, CCJ looks forward to working with the government to ensure that risk management tools available to farmers are effective and reflect the risks of modern farming. CCJ requests the establishment of an industry government technical working group that will allow farm groups to actively participate in BRM data and impact analysis. It's worth noting that in the last 3 years, the US government has announced $47 billion in agriculture support, in addition to its regular farm bill and crop insurance program. To realize our full economic potential, we have to remain competitive in the global market. On innovation, a science-based regulatory process is the foundation upon which the Canadian canola industry was built. It's critical that the PMRA continue to take science-based regulatory approaches that assess risk on crop protection products, including the final decision on the proposed ban of neonicotinoid seed treatments that would cost the Canadian canola industry between $700 million and $1 billion annually. As part of our stewardship, CCJ collected water monitoring data in collaboration with industry partners weekly over the spring and summer of 2019 that demonstrate canola farmers are effective at preventing those products from moving into wetlands. The PMRA needs to continue making science-based decisions on crop protection products by incorporating the best available information. Another important innovation is advances in new plant breeding techniques, as well as was identified by the 2018 report from the Economic Strategy Table, the 2018 Fall Economic Update, and the 2019 Treasury Board Agri-Food and Aquaculture Regulatory Roadmap. These new tools have the potential to create new and better varieties for farmers, consumers, and the environment alike. To ensure research and development continues in Canada and to maintain farmers' competitiveness, an enabling regulatory system is required. In conclusion, we appreciate the opportunity to speak with this committee today. CCJ would urge this committee and all parliamentarians from both houses to not only reflect on the current challenges agriculture is facing, but also the support that our sector needs to drive the Canadian economy post-COVID.
Thank you, Mr. Carey. And now we'll go to our question round, and we'll start with Mr. Barlow for up to 6 minutes. Go ahead, Mr. Barlow.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thanks to our witnesses for taking the time to be with us today. And some of the numbers that Mr. Nielsen was talking about are certainly concerning when you see the farm incomes down 45% in 2018, and then another drop this year, and that or last year doesn't include what we'll see next year with COVID. And we've certainly heard the number of 30,000 family farms at risk of bankruptcy, and debt levels now to $115 billion. Maybe Mr. Nielsen, can you give me a bit of how critical is the situation? Like you said, it was a difficult financial footing heading into the pandemic, and we have seen a real lack of definitive action, something designed specifically for agriculture. How serious is the situation facing Canadian farmers right now?
I think it's as Mr. Carey indicated, different crops have different effects. It's more noticeable right now with the soybean and the corn sector. For the other commodities, that's the canola. We've seen the hit for over a year, lack of market access to one of our key exporting countries. We've seen the effects of the U.S. farm programs affecting some of our prices. It's hard to quantify really the total damage, and I think what we're waiting for now is the other shoe to fall. And if we don't have the proper programs in our back pocket that will work for us, that are designed to work properly, then when that other shoe falls, then we're going to be in serious trouble.
Yeah, I think we've all would agree that agriculture is an industry that we'll be relying on post-COVID to get us out of a very deep financial hole. But we have a government right now that's saying we're asking agriculture to empty its whatever savings you may have before we offer any tangible assistance. AgriInvest, for example, do you have an idea on what funds are actually available in AgriInvest? And is this a program that I would assume that farmers rely on as a long-term savings program? Do you know what numbers are available in AgriInvest, and if this is actually a tangible solution to a global pandemic?
We understand, and we've been trying to get data from the federal government on the accounts of AgriInvest. Somewhere in the excess of $2 billion are in accounts being held right now. Thing is, a lot of people use this money. It's a matching program up to $10,000. Myself and all the people that I kind of talk to on this program use it, and they use it yearly, investing that money into their farm operations. Some people believe they want to use it for next generation transfer of their farm to their family. We're trying to find the right information from that so we can answer a question like that, Mr. Barlow, better. Currently, we have a request in to the federal government for this information, and we're still waiting for that information to come.
Now, I understand, we've been pushing for the CEBA to be made more available, or better eligibility for agriculture to take advantage of that. But there has been some movement on that to ensure that producers can access the emergency business account. But my understanding is that information still is not available, and some financial institutions still don't have the documentation to allow agriculture producers to access that. Is that correct, Mr. Nielsen?
That is my understanding, yes. Currently, the Bank of Montreal has been trying to keep my personal account manager, my commercial manager at my branch, sent me a note this morning on that, stating that the proper information isn't available to the Bank of Montreal yet to open any accounts. We do thank the government for the changes made to allow hopefully more farm businesses to take advantage of this, yet currently we cannot.
Mr. Carey, you were talking about the importance of global trade, and I think as we go post-COVID, that is going to be critical. But we've talked about canola, soybeans to China, and now we've seen China put 80% tariff on Australian barley. Any concern with even the decision with the Huawei earlier this week? What are the Canadian relationship is going to be with China? And are there discussions already starting on the potential ramifications of Chinese, political influence on trade relationships around the world?
Thank you for the question. I think we've certainly seen China take a strong approach to trade and doing what it feels is in its best interest of late. I do know that in March there was the ongoing dialogue between the Canadian government and the Chinese government. The recent court decision, I'd say, it is still too new for us to really have any information that isn't available to the public. But again, the trade concerns that the Chinese government have raised are on the technical nature, the phytosanitary nature, for which, I think at this point, we don't see a path forward yet to resolving that issue. But again, I think it also speaks to the importance that we open up as many potential markets so that farmers aren't reliant on any import market that could have this sort of adverse effects on our exports, which is why also looking at more Canadian-made solutions such as biodiesel is a key.
Thanks. Got time for one quick last question for Mr. Nielsen. Yeah, really quick. AgriStability is being touted as your tool out of here, but in many times AgriStability payments come out 2 years down the road while you may be facing bankruptcy. Was AgriStability ever designed for a pandemic?
No, to be honest with you, no.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Barlow. And now, maintenant, Madame Bessette pour 6 minutes. Allez-y.
Madam Bessette, 7 minutes. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And thank you to the witnesses for your presentations. I have to stress the importance of the work that you do to maintain food security and the supply chain. My question is addressed to the chicken producers of Canada. There's been quite a bit of new money put into place for supplementary cost related to COVID-19. You indicated in your brief 90% of these should be reimbursed. How will Agri-Recovery come to the assistance of farmers and producers? Well, thank you. First of all, I have to acknowledge that Ms. Bessette is my representative in Parliament from my riding. it's the value of the flocks that is not covered that is of concern, and we'll go into greater detail if you wish. To use the correct wording, Mr. Michael Laliberté, our Executive Director of Producers of Canada, is online, and he will perhaps give you further details. So, Mr. Laliberté, if you'd like to complete this project, the 90% figure that Ms. Bessette mentioned, but not the real the price of the flock, if you will. Michael? You might be on mute. Thank you, Mr. Fontaine. I think that I covered the situation. This program provides it comes into effect when we have to depopulate an undertaking or an enterprise. Fortunately, we have not had to euthanize great amounts of flocks, thanks to the hard work of adapting to the situation by producers and producers and processors. Now, if a significantly sized processor had to close down his plant, and we couldn't get the slaughtering done, we'd have to euthanize these. The program will cover the cost of euthanasia. Now, these costs are enormous, and the program requires a 60-40 formula for provincial participation as well, federal provincial. The cost of the chicken, the bird that would be on the market, so the losses would be very high for producers if we had to depopulate a large flock. Okay, the federal government is open to these changes, but we have to recognize jurisdictional issues. As you said, it's a shared issue of interest to both the provinces and the federal government. So where are you at in your discussions with either side of the government fence? Thank you. Michael's in touch with the 10 Director Generals of our provincial units. We're using Zoom, of course, to meet often enough. And there has to be a fit between provincial and federal efforts. Of course, we're not all at the same speed throughout all the provinces, but Michael? In fact, the only province which has confirmed that they are using it and have mastered it is Ontario. We have partners in all 10 provinces, mind you, and they're going to make the request to their provincial governments, but I don't know if the request has been made to the federal government. Thank you. We know that the international markets present great opportunities in this global world of business. We have to protect our national interests and protect our national markets at the same time. With the Nest CUSMA, or given the situation with the CPTPP, you've indicated what the stakes are in your brief. How do you see that this compensation would occur? Well, compensation is 5 sectors, if you will, dairy and eggs and all the feathered birds, turkey, chicken, etc. For the avian populations, we're looking for funding so that we can buy Canadian chicken or tax credits in order to allow to the poultry raisers to modernize, expand their facilities. And in order to be equitable, we don't want these monies be available only 1 year, the first year. We always have preferred a situation to have tax credits perhaps spread over 10 years so that a newly established farmer, a young farmer, who's been in business, who's trying to get into business, and he doesn't have that much cash to invest initially, might be able to invest and reinvest in the 7th, 8th, or 9th year. So we need the money to ensure and it'll be shared equally, of course, for per provinces. I shouldn't name them, but Newfoundland and Labrador, PEI, perhaps they wouldn't be raising that much chicken in those, given that the markets are more restrained. So supply management is a solution for rural areas, quite clearly. Thank you. Thank you, Madame Bessette. Mr. Perron. Yes, welcome to all, and thank you for our witnesses to be with us today. I'd like to expand a little bit on what Ms. Bessette has raised. You were talking about this supply management and the financing of such. We're pretty much aware of your requests and your proposals. What way could we liberate some of this benefit money so that you might have a little more breathing room during this pandemic period? Hello? Mr. Fontaine? I was under the impression perhaps he didn't hear me. Yes, I'm back. Did you hear the question, sir? No. Okay, I'll start again. I'm following up a bit on Ms. Bessette's questions, and as to compensation in particularly, and access to some of these benefits. You explained to us what your position is and what your requests are, at your asks. It's quite clear. You've been very consistent in them. So a demand for compensation has been established for quite a while now. If we were to liberate some of these funds, would that help you during this tough period? So I hope I was plugged in here and you understood the question. We've been negotiating for a number of years, of course. The amounts have been set, and it's quite sure that if we could settle on this compensation, it's very, very clear that it would, of course, be of help and help chicken producers survive through this tough period, combined with other programs, of course. But it would really help, yes. This financial assistance, whether in the form of tax credit or outright payments, will help producers directly and indirectly. Yes, it would be of great assistance on top of course, these other special, and not only your producers, but society at large, because farming occurs in all ridings and throughout the country. I would have to agree with you on supply management position. You're not looking for compensation, I mean the chicken producers, for the risks of production, because supply management allows you ample tools to manage the system properly. But if ever you have to depopulate or euthanize a flock, this would lead to significant cost. And Agri-Relance doesn't cover the situation fully. Yes, supply management is there to respond and to balance supply and demand. So we go every 8 weeks, we take a look, we readjust, need more, and because of tourism in the summer, there's less consumption in the winter. Or the Olympic Games, for example, we had to increase production in one province for excessive demand and more sales on the market. We would reduce 15% in the east and 7% in the west because of the rapid changes in the market. As the restaurant, hospitals, and institutional sector is almost completely collapsed, we are stuck with a lot of excess processing of eggs. The second part is a depopulation issue, the loss of a flock. 90% of the cost, but the price of the birds is not covered. And that's a huge financial stress. And this is where you need the government's assurance that if something were to occur, they would be waiting to help you. But we haven't had that message yet. Yes, that's correct. Coming back to supply management, I'd like to come back on that one more time. I'd like to draw the attention of the committee to that. You've told us out and out, straightforwardly, that it protects the sector during this pandemic period. I'd like all members of the committee, and I want it for the record that this has been said. This is a major, major conclusion. We are protecting the system in future through strength of law so that there are no breaches or erosion. I think we have received very firm commitments from the Prime Minister that at the next round of negotiations, be it Mercosur or any other treaty, that there will be no further concessions made on supply management. It has often been served as a, the cherry on the sundae or an extra incentive to seal a deal. But we're not. It's not a closed market. We have a lot of flexibility in the system. We have. It's absolutely false to say we don't import any chicken. The doors are open, but we manage the quantity, we manage the quality, and given that we are a northern country with very high standards, we're in the north as opposed to the south, and it might cost a bit more in Ontario, Montreal than it does in New York, but in any case, it's a better bird. Thank you for that. It's better to have it down in writing by way of a law or legislation than just an engagement. Well, we lost a minute initially. I'll compensate for you. I'll ask a question. You'll have a chance later. Thank you.
For 6 minutes, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good to see our witnesses. Welcome to our virtual committee. It's good to see many of your faces again. I think I'll start with the Grain Growers of Canada. Since we've started studying COVID-19's effect on agriculture and agri-food, we started back in early May. This is our 7th meeting on the subject. It, in some cases, has felt very much like a continuation of our original study on the business risk management programs, because we've heard a litany of complaints about how BRMs are still not working, and we still need to see that kind of federal leadership. And I'm really sorry to hear, Mr. Nielsen, that that the current federal offers just aren't cutting it. I hope that this feedback is acted upon, but maybe just continue on what Mr. Barlow was touching on. When the federal agriculture minister says to producers that you need to start accessing these programs and making use of the money that's available in order for me to make the case to my cabinet colleagues that you need more money, like, how do you respond to those comments?
Thank you, Mr. McGregor. It's a challenge. I think farmers are trying to use the programs available to them to their best advantages. As Aaron made the comment, crop insurance is one of the programs that farmers really participate and really appreciate. Agri-Invest, there could be some work done on that. It could be a tool that government could use to get more cash into a farmer's pocket. Agri-Stability at less than 30% enrollment, it's been proven to be actually a disaster. And to Mr. Barlow's question on the pandemic there, had we actually had reforms made as we've asked for a couple of years now to Agri-Stability, had they been in place prior to the pandemic, they probably could have kicked in and helped. It's hard to be retroactive to anything. If we want to be proactive, and that's what farming is. We're a proactive group. Aaron,
and Ms. Gowerluck, you made the comment about wanting to see federal leadership. It's interesting to note, if you go to the Constitution of Canada, Section 95 clearly gives the federal government the authority to make laws in relation to agriculture. So any comments that we need to wait for the provinces, the federal government could actually step in, make the fixes to agri-stability if it so wished.
Yes, and I think that's what we've been calling for is some federal leadership. We know very clearly that it is within our Agriculture Minister Bibeau's mandate to address agri-stability in particular. And I want to build on a point, if I may, that Mr. Perron made. And I'm not an expert on supply management, but I think it's an interesting perspective that supply management offers a certain level of protection to the sector during times like this. And I might suggest that the export-oriented sector is also worthy of a level of protection during times like this. And I think that if we had addressed some of the challenges that we're currently facing right now through this pandemic period, and to Jeff's point with respect to some of the market access challenges that we're facing, and what we call last year's harvest, the harvest from hell, we wouldn't find ourselves in the situation which we're currently in. This could have been done proactively, and I think it could have been done more effectively to address some of the challenges we're facing during the pandemic. And I think as a result, you would have seen fewer requests for ad hoc support if a framework were already in place to provide the meaningful support that export-oriented farmers are, in my view, entitled to.
Good points. Thank you for that. In the couple of minutes that I have left, Mr. Carey, I'd like to turn to you and to the canola growers. I'd like to expand on your comments about the Canadian fuel standards. You know, in my riding, we have a proponent, Cowichan Energy Alternatives. They want to expand their operations, have sort of a bioenergy cluster where they're taking used cooking fuel and turning it into a diesel additive. So you mentioned you wanted to go to 5%. And I think, you know, putting this in the context that our relations with China, I don't think are going to get better anytime soon. I would just like maybe you to illustrate more what kind of an economic shot in the arm this could represent if we got a clear direction from the federal government that we want these kind of renewable fuel standards in place, and what kind of investment that would lead to, especially in refining capacity in turning canola oil into an actual usable fuel additive.
Yes, thanks for your comment. Yeah, so we estimate that it would be about 1.3 million metric tons, which would be valued at over $1 billion. Should the clean fuel standard be moved to 5% for biodiesel, and for which canola is arguably the best feedstock. It burns approximately 90% cleaner than just petroleum. So I think it would send a clear demand signal for both, a clear signal for farmers to continue to grow and invest in their farms, and in a way that is a domestic value-added jobs for Canadians. Biodiesel plants are located across the country, and it provides a great opportunity to continue to grow the canola industry in a way that is not reliant upon another export market. And again, just that it could possibly be a market the size of Japan export-wise is fairly staggering from my perspective. And I think that 5% would also send further down the value chain, send the demand signal to both crushers and biodiesel plants that they should be innovating, they should be investing. We need the signal so that the investments can begin to go, and that when farmers do harvest their crops in the fall, they've got more options as to where they sell that product.
I think if we're going to build that kind of resiliency and have agriculture lead the way, I think absolutely for our economic recovery. Thank you very much for those comments.
And on that, we'll move to Mr. Soroka for 5 minutes.
Geez, I'm so used to just talking, I forget about pushing the button. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for that. I guess this question goes out to Mr. Nelson. You had brought up the staggering debt load that farmers have right now, and yet the government talks about how they've helped farmers by increasing the Farm Credit Corporation by $5 billion. I've never understood how you're going to borrow your way out of debt. Could you give me some comments on that, please?
If I had the answer to that, that would be a good. I can't help you there. That's a big concern when you offer more avenues for increased debt, and you're not solving the problems that we're experiencing on the export market, as Mr. Carey, as Aaron, and others have made the comments. We need government that will go into these marketplaces, such as India, where the pulse concerns is, such as Italy and the durum, which has gotten better, China with oil seeds. We can't compete with a neighbor to the south who has limitless pockets or deep pockets to support their sector. We need actions where actually trade avenues work. We're free marketers. We enjoy that. We don't like debt.
Okay. We know the minister has moved the next FPT meeting back to October, but had promised a decision on the BRM review for July. Has the minister reached out to the grain growers or maybe the Ag Growth Coalition to create a forum in which discussions could continue?
Not at this time. We've got a request that the Ag Growth chairs of the Ag Growth Coalition meet with the ministers at they apparently have weekly calls. So I'm not sure if it's just the deputy ministers on these calls or if it's actual FPT ministers for each province and territories on the calls. We just submitted that request. As you noted, and Aaron has noted in Minister Bibeau's mandate letter, were supposed to be reforms to BRM's programs. We were assured that back in December that something would be happening, and by postponing the meeting now to October, it really throws it up in the air as far as we don't know what's going on.
Yeah, well, with the agri-stability application deadlines extends to July 3rd, 2020, how important is it for the grain farmers to see the minister's promised BRM reforms prior to this deadline?
It's unless they extend the deadline currently at the 30% or sorry, the 70% coverage with less than 30% participation. No, we're not going to see anybody else sign up. Why bother? It costs money. It's not a program that's friendly for a person to do it themselves. You get your accountant to do it, and it costs some money.
Yeah, no, well understood. Mr. Carey, now the advance payment program you've been offering for many years through the government, you're the ones that initiate it. Because of the start of April 1st and a lot of staff delays in that, how is this going to impact the producers? I know even the person that's renting my farmland doesn't have the money. Are some of these people now potentially not going to be able to have money to buy fertilizer input costs? And will they essentially go bankrupt because they cannot get access to these funds that have been on a yearly basis to them?
Yes, thank you for your question. Yeah, we are one of 36 administrators of the federal government's advanced payments program. CCGA is by far the largest, doing about over 60% of the full the dollar value. So there have been delays. The delays were not just we were prepared for the new creditworthiness measures that Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada put in place for April 1, 2020. We were not in a place to deal with those new creditworthiness measures, as well as relocating our 65 staff to working remotely. And we've heard in other, in other conversations, the fact that some of our staff do live in rural Canada, based out of outside of Winnipeg. So dealing with one or the other would have been certainly manageable. Dealing with both was very difficult. We are now at a position by next week that we will have been able to return to our normal business turnaround times, which is between 3 to 5 business days. And to date, we've issued over 3,000 advances for $400 million. So we are not the only advance administrator, but as the largest one, we take that responsibility very seriously. And we've been in constant communication with our farmer customers, and have successfully renegotiated now with AEFC twice, as far as loosening some of that red tape to allow our frontline staff to get the advance payments to farmers in a timely manner.
I think that's my time.
Pretty much does it. Thank you, Mr. Soroka. Now, Mr. Blois for 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to all our witnesses for your testimony here today. I'm going to start with the chicken farmers of Canada. In my riding of King Sance, we have the most supply managed farms east of Montreal. The poultry and dairy industry in particular are of very strong importance. And to Mr. Fontaine and Mr. Laliberte, Nick DeGraff, I know is the second vice president with Chicken Farmers of Canada. We had the conversation this week where we talked about your industry. You talked about July to August in terms of the 11% cut in production. Have you looked at what it could be afterwards? I know Nick was talking about it could be down to 7%. 7%. Are things improving generally as we move along?
Merci, Monsieur Blois, de la question.
Thank you, Mr. Blois, for this question. Yes, the situation is progressing quite well, As I said, the restaurant, institutional hospital sector is cut back quite strictly. Your question then, what might it look like? Well, I don't have my crystal ball with me, but I have very sensitive antenna, and perhaps in the fall, we would be slightly below last year's production numbers, or might be coming back to normal, quote unquote, towards the end of the year, perhaps December. We responded immediately to the sudden crash. We adapted quickly, and I think things have started to straighten out now, so it's improving.
Strength of supply management and what that system means. Just one more question for you. I know we've talked about the cost of farmers losing their bird population if they had to depopulate. Is that a cost that can be recovered as part of the cost of production study? I know, like dairy, the poultry industry would consider the cost that farmers had. Is that something that could be incorporated into the cost of production down the line?
Ne pourrait pas être inclus dans un coût de production parce qu'on parle.
No, I don't think so, because we're talking about pandemic, COVID-19. It's a once in a lifetime. We've never seen it. We hope never to see it again or anything similar. But the program covers. It doesn't cover the product. It's the value, the market value of the birds were we to depopulate. Is not recoverable.
Because I want to move on to another group. Do you have a cost on what it might actually represent in terms of the depopulation that has happened? Do you have an estimated cost of what that has cost farmers, producers?
C'est la valeur du marché.
Well, it's a market value. There's transportation to slaughterhouse for euthanasia, but for the rest, we can't really give you a number.
Much. I want to turn to the grain growers and Mr. Nielsen. I know you're from Olds, and being a junior hockey player, the Olds Grizzlies are a long-time franchise. But I'll move my questions to Ms. Gawrylik. You mentioned about the 85% reference margin. Just for my benefit, you talked about getting rid of the reference margin. Is that the cap, or you mean we should be supplying up to 100% of the 85% reference margin?
It's both, in that we're seeking an increase from the 70% to the 85%, and we're also seeking removal of the reference margin limit as well. And that's one that I said in my remarks is fairly consistent with every sector across the industry.
The grain farmers of Ontario have put out certain messaging around the concern about empty shelves in grocery stores. Is that something that you expect as an organization?
When we look from the perspective of our members in terms of what we grow and the commodities that we represent, the vast majority of what we grow goes overseas, because we have the luxury of growing more than we can consume in the country of Canada with respect to grains, pulses, and oilseeds. So we do rely to a certain extent on international markets as well.
We hear a lot about business risk management and agri-stability. Of course, this was a program that was cut back in 2013. Has the grain growers of Canada, was this something that right since 2013 you pushed the government not to do, and had continued this advocacy all along in terms of the changing from when the Conservative government had cut this program?
This was something I think that has been, certainly through the Ag Growth Coalition, of which Jeff Nielsen, our chair, co-chairs, this has been an ask that's been on the books now with the Ag Growth Coalition for just over a year now. Farm circumstances over the last 5 years have changed, and as such, we really feel the need now to see an increase to the 85% as a result of those changing circumstances on farms across the country.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Blois. And now that ends our first panel. I want to thank les producteurs de poulet du Canada, Monsieur Lafontaine, Monsieur Fontaine.
Mr. Fontaine, La Liberté for the chicken processors, the grain growers, Mr. Jeff Nielsen, and Ms. Erin Gawrylik.
Thank you very much for joining us today. And we shall suspend for 5 minutes. So set your clocks. We'll be back for 5 minutes with the next panel. Thank you so much.
Merci.
Our session, in our second hour, we have the Canadian Poultry and Egg Producers Council, Mr. Joël Cormier, welcome, and Mr. Jean-Michel Laurent, President and CEO. And good afternoon, Mr. Laurent.
Maple Leaf, Aliments Maple Leafs Incorporé, Monsieur Rory McAlpine, premier vice-président, relations avec le gouvernement et l'industrie. Et de la Fédération des producteurs d'œufs du Québec.
And the Federation of Egg Producers in Quebec, Mr. Pauline Bouchard, President and CEO, Denis Frenette, Assistant Director General. Welcome to all. We'll begin with 7 minutes for each witness. The Canadian Poultry and Egg Processors Council, you can split the time as you wish, but we'll start the clock now. Thank you. Go to it.
Bonjour, Monsieur le Président.
Bonjour, Monsieur le Président, les députés. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jean-Michel Laurent.
Poultry and Egg Processors Council, or CPEPC, or CCTOV in French. I'm joined today by our board chair, Mr. Joël Cormier, who is also Senior Vice President, Chicken Division at Exceldor Cooperative. I want to thank you for inviting us to appear before the committee to brief you on our industry's response to COVID-19 and the challenges we need to overcome. Before I turn it over to our chair, Mr. Cormier, I'd like to say a few words about our association. CPEPC represents Canadian hatcheries, egg graders and processors, and chicken and turkey processors and further processors. Collectively, our membership represents 179 establishments, both small and large businesses, and covers every province. Two things our members have in common is that they compete against one another in an open market, and they also purchase their primary inputs, chicken, turkey, eggs, and hatching eggs, from supply managed producers. Our members fall outside of supply management, and overall, they process over 90% of the poultry and egg products raised by Canadian farmers. The large majority of our members' production goes to feed Canadians through the retail, food service, and restaurant sectors. I'd now like to invite our chair, Mr. Cormier, to make introductory remarks on behalf of our association.
Merci, Jean-Michel, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you very much, Jean-Michel, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much for giving us the go-ahead to make some remarks on what our association feels was the Canadian government's response to COVID. First, I'd like to say for all our members, we take our role as an industry that's been designated as essential very seriously. Since the onset of the crisis, two main objectives have guided our actions as an industry. First, to ensure the health and safety of the people who work in our establishments, including inspectors, but also the food and the CFIA inspectors who constantly visit our facilities. Our second major objective is to continue to operate our plants and that Canadians may continue to have access to a supply of eggs, chicken, and turkey, despite all the market disruptions we've seen. Canadians rely on us to feed themselves, their families, and egg and poultry producers rely on us to process that production. We take this very seriously. Responding to the pandemic and making sure we meet these two objectives I've just outlined is a very serious challenge. First,
COVID-19 pandemic, making sure we meet the two objectives I just outlined has not been without its challenges for us. I would like to focus your attention on three of those challenges. The first one being the significant costs our members have incurred to keep operating during this crisis. The second is the rapid deterioration of market condition as demand and price fell, especially from the food service sector. And thirdly, the combination of these two elements puts our sectors in an unsustainable and vulnerable position. This is why we have asked government to adapt their measures to help us overcome these challenges. So to expand a little bit more on the first point, keeping our workers safe so we can continue to operate our plants. This is having a significant financial impact on our sector. For all CPPC members, just in March and April, we're talking about more than $87 million on in-budgeted costs, or a little over $3,000 per worker. Despite taking this measure, some plants have had to shut down production shift and sometimes their entire plant for several days to ensure workplace safety. On the second point, we had to rapidly adapt to an unprecedented level of market disruption. We've seen an overall decrease in market demand, in large part due to a massive drop in demand from our food service sector and the institutional segment. Over a third of our production was going to that sector. Even if this market collapsed, we still had to process those poultry and eggs products as if the market was still there because we're dealing with a live product. Because of the severe market correction, in the poultry sector especially, wholesale prices have also dropped significantly since the beginning of the crisis. On the third and final point, what we want to stress is that this perfect storm creates vulnerabilities within our supply chain. Under normal circumstances, in a business, cash flow drives business investment. Right now, it is not the case. We have to make significant investment to keep our plants running despite COVID. But the reduction in demand and the deterioration of the market conditions is putting strong pressure on our financial sustainability. For this reason, and because most of our members don't qualify under existing program, we have been reaching out to governments to adapt and target their support measures to the unique reality we're facing. We hear there is a $1.6 billion available to producers through business risk management programs. In our sector, the impact of COVID is largely being felt by our members, hatcheries, graders, and processors. But those programs are already made available to producers. We have been asking both levels of government, provincial and federal, to expand one of those programs, the Agri Recovery segment, so that the extraordinary costs incurred by processors can be eligible. Another idea we share is to expand the Canadian employee wage subsidy using a sliding scale approach, so that processors with 15 to 30% reduction in net income could qualify. We also welcome the Emergency Processor Fund and the Food Surpluses Purchase Program announced a few weeks ago, and we have made recommendation on how these measures should be applied to help our industry. I should also mention that poultry and egg processors were promised financial support to mitigate the impact of the COSMA and CPTPP. More specifically, we asked the support to focus on capital investment and allocating the majority of import quota to processors and further processors. Having the government follow through on this commitment is more critical than ever. In closing, we hope we can work with you to overcome the challenges we described today, additional costs, lost revenues, and an unsustainable financial situation that is resulting from this. By working together, we want to ensure we get back to a sustainable position as an industry, ensuring a long-time presence for the benefit of customers and consumers. Thank you.
Alors merci, merci, Monsieur Cormier. And now we'll go to Maple Leaf Food for up to 7 minutes. Go ahead, Mr.
Okay.
McAlpine.
Thank you very much, Mr. President and committee members. Merci à vous tous. C'est un grand plaisir d'être un représentant.
Thank you to you all. It's a pleasure for me to represent Maple Leaf Foods today, to represent our perception and perspective on COVID and the future that it may bring.
Many witnesses, and I could, of course, give you a great deal of information about how the crisis has impacted our business, the sector broadly, and our direct experience in the crisis management response of our industry and government partners collectively. And I'll be happy to answer any questions on those issues, and I've shared a longer document that gives a bit of context for what I wanted to say. But I really wanted to focus more on the future. What needs to happen for our sector to recover, and what are some of the processes and understandings we should have to make the most use of that? Because as we all know, I think it was Winston Churchill once said that you should never waste a crisis. So in the months to come, we owe it to Canadians to take a careful forensic look at our food system and reflect critically on what needs to change operationally and strategically to make sure that we are better prepared in the future. So I have some immediate thoughts. First, there needs to be at least one inclusive evidence-based postmortem or lessons learned exercise on the agri-sector crisis response as a subset of the national inquiry that will presumably be led by Public Safety Canada. The federal government must be willing to put the review in the hands of one or more independent bodies, such as the Canadian Agri-Food Policy Institute or the Arel Food Institute, both of which in fact have been thinking about this and have already announced a joint process to undertake such an inquiry. Leaders from government, agriculture, CFIA, Health Canada, Public Health Agency, and so on, along with their provincial counterparts, should be directed to participate fully and transparently in such a process. Secondly, it needs to be asked why Canada did not have a cross-agency business continuity plan for the agri-food sector, similar to the US food and agriculture sector specific plan, which was last updated in 2015. And what will be done if we build one to actually exercise one? Coupled with this should be a serious examination of integrating federal, provincial, and industry interests into a more cohesive crisis governance model that's capable of making informed, timely decisions. We could look at models in other countries, and we need to ask whether plans and structures to deal with agri-sector specific crises events, such as African swine fever, are up to the task, and whether, in that case, a group like Animal Health Canada could be launched in 2020. Thirdly, there needs to be careful consideration of what COVID-19 has fundamentally taught us about the resilience of the Canadian agri-food system and what we need to change, both to better manage the forward risks and seize the commercial opportunities in a time when other Canadian industries may be permanently damaged. So the areas of specific focus, in our view, need to be the following. First, the economic health of subsectors of Canadian agri-food going forward, at least until there is a COVID-19 vaccine. This is important since some farms and businesses will be bankrupt, food service sales may remain impaired for a very long time, workplaces will operate with higher absenteeism, operating costs will be higher with some production lines running more slowly, food prices will have to rise, etc. Some useful literature has already been published by the academic community on this. Secondly, the future state of global agri-food policy and trade and the implications for Canada's agri-food trade and investment strategy. We are a trade-dependent sector, so this matters a lot. The OECD has already begun to examine this, and given our export dependence, Canada should participate fully in that work. Canada must align with like-minded countries to beat back protectionism and highlight Canada's export capacity as a key contributor to sustainable food production and global food security. And to do this, we also need to fix our relations with China. Third issue, while taking full account of the difficult fiscal circumstances facing all Canadian governments, the design and scope of programming under the FedProv Canadian Agricultural Partnership, which expires in 2023. In our view, there needs to be a top to bottom review to ensure it is appropriately mitigating business risks for the agri-food supply chain and not just the farm sector, while making the right investments in research, sustainability, animal and plant health, export market development, and so on. Commitments on regulatory modernization and solutions to the labor crisis should be brought within the CAP framework. Next, we need to look at the appropriate design, funding, and governance of the food policy for Canada. That was announced last year. The need for a joined up whole of government food policy has been made very evident throughout the pandemic, but many priorities will likely have to be rethought, not least because of the new fiscal circumstances. Health Canada's regulatory agenda for the food sector also needs to be brought into the food policy framework and, in our view, be less activist driven. And finally, there's the issue of food security in Canada and what needs to be done to prevent it from getting worse. This is something that Maple Leaf Foods cares deeply about, and our Maple Leaf Center for Action on Food Security could help in this area of investigation. So in conclusion, the Canadian agri-food sector has a huge contribution to make to Canada's post-COVID-19 recovery, perhaps more than any other sector of the economy. The pandemic has demonstrated that for many social, environmental, and economic reasons, the sector matters more than ever. And Canadians see that. Under the right set of conditions, the sector has the ability to attract investment and create employment at a faster pace. It has immediate employment opportunities for thousands of unemployed Canadians. It is also experiencing an IT-enabled technology revolution that plays to another major area of strength for Canada. So in the aftermath of COVID-19, there's an opportunity to pivot business models and government thinking towards the priorities of resilience, risk prevention, sustainability, and innovation-driven growth. And where the crisis demonstrated that certain legacy structures and decision-making processes, whether within government or between government and the agri-food sector stakeholders, got in the way of better, quicker decisions.
Thank you.
Or where the rules were bent to no ill effect, there should be a strong appetite for reform and culture change. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McAlpine. We have to move on to the next one. And now from the La Fédération des producteurs d'œufs du Québec for 7 minutes.
The Federation of Egg Producers of Quebec, 7 minutes. Your microphone may be muted. Is this better? Yes? Okay. I'd also like to thank you for the invitation that you've tendered us to the Federation of Egg Producers here for a presentation. This is the first time I have to participate before your committee, and I'm very, very pleased to have accepted the invitation. So this afternoon, I'd like to talk about the adaptation that the sector has had to commit to since the onset of COVID pandemic. The situation has changed quite a bit, and we were able to survive and do well because of our supply management system, whether it was a real shock and impact on our whole system. We were able to counter the major parts of the challenge. I'd like to tell you who we are. In Quebec, egg production is 1.9 billion eggs annually, 160 producers who share about 6 million laying heads. The markets are divided in two sectors. When we talk about table eggs, which is for human consumption, whether it's at home or in restaurants, and then the processing eggs, the processing sector. So producers produce eggs for both, of course, and then there are also graders who classify the quality and the size of eggs, and processors who will process and further process into a number of variable products. We've already heard from Mr. Laurent Cormier and others today. So here is the outline of what happened during the crisis. During the first couple of weeks, we had to make an unprecedented reaction quickly to a shock, a huge shock. We had to transfer a lot of the production to the retail consumer market because there was an unprecedented demand for the first couple of weeks. It was like the toilet paper panic. People were just threw themselves to get this product, afraid of seeing empty shelves. We had grocers who quadrupled their orders from 1 week to the next. So together with the processors, we came to a quick consultation and arrangement to reorient the flow of those eggs to the table market. The following weeks, we suffered a little bit what you see in the meat processing sector, of course. They had to adapt very, very quickly because of social distancing, etc. Our spent hens, our culled birds, could no longer go through the conventional slaughtering process, so we had to accompany the producers to euthanize their birds on farm. And this has been expensive, of course, and we'd like to make sure that the share of the costs will be shared throughout the industry and not fall on only a few large producers. Good news, however, we can actually salvage some of the value through the existing slaughterhouses now and make chicken bouillon or other products of the type. And the third phase, the hospital, restaurant, and institutional markets fell through the floor, and the domestic markets for consumption at home, it was okay. But after the first month, 75% of the market for processing was affected. We had overabundance of eggs that weren't required for the table market, and we couldn't process them any further. It put us in a situation that 84,000 dozens of eggs were in fact wasted or given away. Well, we've managed to reduce the production, and what we're doing is we're sending the hens to slaughter on a earlier basis in order to reduce production and to allow us to rationalize and not waste so much product. But again, that incurs costs, costs which will be shared throughout the sector so that we can avoid any bankruptcies or disappearance of the smaller agricultural enterprises. Programs that can be used to serve the purpose of helping us stabilize the sector and to keep processing. The challenges that we're looking ahead to is to make sure that we can limit American imports as much as possible under the circumstances. We had 4,000 laying hens that are going to be shipped off before the productive cycle is closed off in order to reduce the production. And we don't want to import eggs, would be counterproductive. So we've had discussions and consultations with importers, etc. But we will need government assistance to maintain this adaptivity, a little slight flexibility in the rules right now. Dealing with CFIA, for example, on packaging, we've made some recommendations. They accepted these quite well and given us a little bit more flexibility as to the size grades of the eggs, for example, mostly. And we certainly hope that Global Affairs Canada will also cooperate with our producers in managing import-export, the management of the imports in particular. But Canada's trade deals, of course, have certain commitments, and we have to respect those internationally. We would appreciate a better consultation process. We're not looking to start a trade war between Canada and the States, obviously, but we want to assist the industry, the sector, at this critical time so that we have the best processes possible to continue to feed Canadians. Thank you very much, Mr. Bouchard. Now we're going to go to our question round, and we will begin with Mr. Richard Leroux. You have, Leroux, rather, 6 minutes. Thank you, Chair, and thank you to our witnesses for their presentations this afternoon. Mr. Cormier, the first question's for you. With the fund that has been proposed, the emergency to the processors, emergency assistance to processors, you raised an issue and 96 million in additional extra costs for the sector. So there's only 77 million that was proposed in the package. You've overshot that with your costs, but the question would be posed also to other sectors in agri-food. The criteria, how are we going to share this 77 million? Do you think that's going to be adequate, or how is it should be spread, or anything like that? Will it be enough? Your mic's not on, sir. Yes, I'll reply. Yes, Mr. Leroux, it's quite clear that the 77 million, which was attributed to the entirety of agriculture and agri-food, well, 96 million in cost just for the poultry section alone. This week, I've taken a look and what we could help to disburse the 77 equitably. There's been a cap on a percentage, and We can't request reimbursement for disposable masks. It has to be reusable masks, and that would imply further costs. I have to return the mask. Somebody will continue wearing it, or if it's not been washed, you can't hand it off to somebody else. They become disposable. The 25%, we'd like to see a 50% reimbursement of costs, real costs. We're trying to protect workers here. Masks are absolutely, a washable one is not acceptable. It's not good enough in this sector. Mr. Laurent, you have something to add? Well, one last point, perhaps. We'd like to ensure we have many members started installing protective devices in February, end of February, plexiglass shields, for example. They were prior to the offer by the government of these emergency response. We'd like to ensure that there could be some perhaps reimbursement or compensation for retroactive things that occurred before. Well, that's an important point, Mr. Laurent. I think because you acted proactively, you shouldn't be punished. And you were trying to do your best to protect your workers. So congratulations for that, at least. However, there are a lot of criteria that have yet to be defined, conditions that will have to be met, but they don't meet the needs of the industry. I heard you loud and clear, and I'm sure that there's going to be some tweaking of the system and an improvement perhaps in processors have indicated to another $50 million that they've made of expenses, and that almost eats up the whole amount. Well, thank you, Mr. Cormier and Laurent. I have a question also for the egg producers of Quebec. Mr. Boujard, hello, by the way. You described the impact that this might have if we were to import eggs. I'm not against trade either, like you, but it would have an impact on us if the imports continue, on the one hand, and if we shut them off, well, the importers will suffer. Well, thank you very much for your question, Mr. Leroux, and hello to you too. Producers will have to slaughter a number of birds as it is, and they will be the cost will probably be absorbed in a collective fashion. We'll try to spread the cost among all producers. But if we have a bad management or an unbalanced management of imports, for example, it's going to cause more grief to our Canadian producers. The solution for our sector, well, you have to understand that producers are liable for any surplus. So if we import even more eggs from the United States, the producers will be responsible for the proper management of that quantum of eggs. What we really would like to see is a continuation of proper management of the quotas, a TRQ, to minimize impact and avoid excessive imports. Well, thank you, Mr. Bouchard. I understand this situation. And of course, it was mentioned that we have to respect our international trade commitments. So TRQ has a very significant impact. We hear it quite regularly at our committee and at our commission. The management of the TRQ should be managed as tightly as possible, to be as close in alignment with production here in Canada and protect our producers. Is that what you're getting at? Absolutely. You have it right on. Well, thank you, Mr. Bouchard. I might have a final question from the gentleman from Maple Leaf. Unfortunately, Mr. you are out of time, so we're going to have to move on to our next speaker, Miss Francis Drouin, and then Luz. 6 minutes.
Mr. Lewis. Mr. McAlpine, I just wanted to touch base on a point that you've raised with regards to Canada having a better cross-sectorial plan. And one of the questions I have in agriculture is one of those industries where it sort of falls with the federal government, falls with the provincial governments. And I know that you once wore another hat previously in your life. I know that you have some experience in the federal government. Do you believe that there should be a better coordination body with to deal with agriculture?
Well, thank you for the question. That's a big question, and agriculture is a big space. So I'm not saying that we need a new organization or a new approach singularly for the whole sector, but what I wanted to focus on was particularly around emergency management, crisis response. In this case, where we absolutely have many jurisdictions and many players that have to make real-time decisions with uncertain information, and deal with an economic and health crisis at the same time, where there's some critical trade-offs and decisions. And we struggle to do that. I've remarked that in some ways, the strength of our Fed-Prov industry kind of coordinated process, the time and effort we use to build programs that frankly does work well in peacetime, is very ill suited to wartime. And we've seen that in the way some poor decisions have been made and the time that it's taken to address some of the immediate operational hurdles. I would say I live the world of animal health, particularly as a rep from Maple Leaf Foods. And that's where I see a particular weakness, where we've got every risk of major disease events occurring that can destroy our export-oriented industries. And we've got to fix the governance by which industry and government work together. I think the pandemic has really illustrated that. And that's why we're talking about creating a group called Animal Health Canada, which would be kind of a co-management partnership for animal health. So you're right on.
And quickly, Mr. McAlpine, I mean, you've identified the lack of that body, or the lack of coordination or emergency response plan. But from your own organization, I mean, December, we started hearing about COVID-19 cases in China. How did Maple Leaf react, going in January, February, and March, and then, obviously we know the rest, but how did you react as an organization?
Yeah. Well, it's a good point. I mean, we're not strangers to crisis. Many of you will know our company had a terrible crisis in 2008 with listeriosis. And so we have a very well-developed sort of emergency management process. But in this case, I don't think we could have anticipated such a debilitating impact across the business. We did, though, work very quickly to pull together what we call a pandemic plan or playbook, where we built out all the standard operating procedures to protect our employees while trying to protect the continuity of our business, recognizing food was designated critical infrastructure, and we obviously had to keep operating. So we've built that out. It evolves almost every day as we learn things. We've invested tremendously in the plant operations and also just the remote working that we're all into right now. So, and I'm proud to say we shared all of that learning with all of our industry and government partners right from the beginning. And I think a number of other players took advantage of what we developed to adapt to their company situations.
Thank you. I'll let Tim, feel free to jump in.
Merci. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the witnesses. Actually, my questions were also directed to Mr. McAlpine. Some of them involved shared practices, exactly like you talked about, and some involved some of the what you did to protective measures to protect our employees. So you've already touched on that. I do appreciate all the ideas you have as well, the looking forward. And right now we're planning on next steps as we come through this, like you said, the opportunities, which is fantastic. But we also are in stabilization mode right now. And so something I saw this morning on social media, and I wouldn't mind having that discussion, was a video that your company, Maple Leaf, had put and talking about diversity and inclusion and some mental health. And I know that touches home here because in my riding in Kitchener-Conestoga, we've got a hatchery plant here. And so that's a concern here. And I'm glad to see you taking some positive steps. If you could elaborate on that, the diversity, inclusion, the mental health aspect of keeping workers safe, in addition, that would be helpful.
Yeah. Well, it's a great question. You know what? We have put a whole new effort on that. We'd already planned that as part of one of our initiatives. I'm talking about the mental health issue before COVID-19 hit. But we've really upped it in the last several weeks with weekly sessions with experts and online tools and support, because both the frontline and the office level workers are facing a lot of stress in their work, and so we've really tried to put in place those kinds of supports and learning, and it's incredible, frankly, how many people have taken advantage of them. So it's a big priority for the company for sure.
Well, I appreciate that, because you know that people's employees are like their families, and then that's what I hear, especially in the agriculture sector. So yes, I appreciate it. That was the what I wanted to discuss today. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis, and thank you, Mr. McAlpine. Before we move on to the next one, could I remind everybody to, if you have a microphone, to hold it as close as you can when you're speaking, because sometimes the voice gets muffled a little bit. Le prochain, c'est Monsieur Perron.
Mr. Perron, 6 minutes. Thank you very much, Chair. I'd like to share my time with Madame Desbiens. My first questions will be for the processors, Mr. Cormier and Lorrain. You mentioned that you're in an open market situation. You're not under management, supply management. So you absolutely need some significant support at this time. Also, that measures to protect your workers were very costly, very significant, and the amounts that have been committed to this kind of assistance are not quite sufficient. You talked about agri-recovery as a possible tools. Are you not covered for salary there, the CEWS, CEWS? Well, you're right, Mr. Perron. Right now, we are not eligible to the salary supplements, the wage supplement, because, well, the thresholds are not, whether it's eggs or poultry, our production is pretty steady, but the demand has dropped like crazy. So we'd had to change, and we couldn't reduce sales quickly enough to apply and be admissible. The day that restaurants closed, we would have had to stop 35% of our production of chickens, of turkeys, of birds, of eggs. But that would have resulted in massive euthanasia of our flocks, depopulation. And the reason that there wasn't this phenomenon, it's because we were able to adapt and we absorbed a lot of the loss. We subsidized internally, if you will. But we satisfied our prime responsibility. One is to feed Canadians, and two, to ensure that the supply chain remains unbroken. Slow it down, perhaps, speed it up, but unbroken. Well, a tip of the hat to you, because it's very ironic to see an industry so significant as yours doesn't have access to this supplementary wage or the. So I'll there you go. I mean, I think you should be included, but. You talked about quotas to producers were negotiated at a certain point to divert some of the eggs to table. But I think you are a processor, are you not, Mr. Cormier? What if we repeat this other mistake that we made in past trade and give away too much? I'll let my colleague answer that. Well, thank you, Mr. Perron. What you have to understand, you talked about free trades, and there's also the CPTPP. No imports right now, but for commodities. There's an agreement with the Americans that come into effect on the 1st of July. And the TRQs that we have given away in these, or ceded, I should say, we should make sure that it's the processors that will have to deal with the arrival of these imports on our markets. For eggs, for example, in the agreement in the CUSMA, they'll be what we call breakers because they'll go to processing eggs. So eggs will come here and they'll be imposed on the processing because nobody else can use them. And we will lose perhaps a large part of our processing market in Canada. It's almost an unfair business practice because you can import them cheaper than you can produce them here in some cases, but the eggs are quality that they cannot be used for table market. It's the same kind of problem we might encounter and so for chicken and turkey. And you have no commitment yet from the government on that score? Well, following the negotiation of those, we were told that there would be a working group, we'd discuss it, ideas were exchanged across the table, etc. But we need a program that's going to assist us in moving ahead and modernizing and streamlining our sector. Okay, share my time now with my colleague. Well, first of all, congratulations on your resilience and your speed of adaptation. You showed a lot of ingenuity and innovation here to protect the market and the process. I have family relatives that are Bouchard, so congratulations, Mr. Bouchard. We're talking about agri-stability in shorts, agri-this and that. And we've been warned today we shouldn't commit the same errors as in the past. So perhaps you can give us a little more clarification on that point. Okay, I have to obey orders as requested. Very often we're going to propose a solution to you, the politicians, which is not easy from a political point of view, but we are looking at a financial solution here. We have resources here in Canada that are fantastic, and if we had greater flexibility in the way we finance that, we could be much more efficient also in the way we manage the programs. Strategically, the Americans are really strategic. They don't give anything away. So more flexibility on your behalf as well. Well, putting in more money would also be useful too. Compared to how the Americans spend, it's not quite the same. Mr. McGregor has the floor now, 6 minutes.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to our witnesses for appearing. Maybe I'll start with the poultry and egg processors. I think it's safe to imagine that the workplace has fundamentally changed as a result of COVID-19, especially in a processing plant. The need for plexiglass barriers, the physical distancing, how you have to alternate your shifts and so on, the personal protective equipment. And I think, you know, those restrictions or those conditions on the workplace will probably be in place for some time. They may be relaxed at some point in the future, but I think anytime a pandemic rears its ugly head again in the future, we will have to be ready to implement them yet again. I'm just wondering, you know, you represent small and large processors right across Canada. I'm just wondering, how do you think, given the new conditions in the workplace, what is your output going to be like when we get back to normal? Because you had a business model that worked with employees sometimes working very closely together, but you still have the same floor space, but now they have to work farther apart in different shifts. What's your output going to be like, you know, a year from now? Are you going to be able to come back to the levels that you once had a year ago or so?
Well, the day that the pandemic will be over and there'll be a vaccine, something like that, then we can think that we can get back to the same level of production as we were. Meanwhile, it's going to be hard because there's places where we needed to reduce production in order to ensure that worker safety. Other places, it is the investment that we had to make. And that's why we made so much investment. As an example, the design of the line there in our processing plant have been made in a way, and that's material that we're buying most of of the time, matter of fact, from Europe. And those equipment are designed that there's so many people at so many square feet. So then that's where we need to put so much protective measure into place to ensure that we comply with the health and security safety in face of COVID. So there will be a reduction in some of the activities, but I will say that it will not be something major, but there will be reduction depending where you're located. There will be some impact. So I will say anywhere between 5, 10, 15% of reduction capacity might happen depending of the plant and the design of the floor. But yeah, so that's where we're heading.
And how would you say your employees are doing at the moment? How's their general mental health? How are they dealing with the added stress and strain of this new reality that we're in?
Well, that's an excellent question because, like we said, the first thing that we want to ensure is our worker safety as an organization, all of the members, and like Mr. McAlpine mentioned, there'll be a lot of sharing of information between all members about stuff what they did to improve. So at the beginning, our employees were, anxiety, they were nervous, scared. We saw a lot of absenteeism also, and some of the program a little bit created some of that absenteeism in our plant there. When people thought that they could stay home and get paid, some of them decided to quit, and but then they realized it wasn't the thing to do. I will say right now, because of the measure are in place, the screening done before they get into plants, and all the measure have been put into place, people feel that they're safe. Most of the time, they feel that they're safe. And when you look at the amount of people that we accumulate across Canada in our processing plant, on the poultry side there, we will say all of our members did very well ensuring the security, and the employees feels it.
Great, thank you very much. Mr. McAlpine, I'd like to turn to you and Maple Leaf Foods. Maybe also get a few of your quick comments on that question that I addressed to the processors, but I would also like to hear a little bit more about your thoughts on food security in Canada. You had mentioned the Maple Leaf Centre for Action on Food Security, and this is an area that is very near and dear to my heart. We are an incredibly wealthy nation that produces an abundance of food, but we still have so much food insecurity. Are there any major findings that you can share with this committee from the Maple Leaf Centre, or areas of study that we should be looking into in the years ahead?
Thank you for the question, Mr. McGregor. On the issue of processing plant environment and the challenges of operating and impacts to production, as Joel said, it's been very challenging, but for us, we have had some particular plant issues. In the case of our poultry business, we had challenges, particularly at our poultry plant in Brampton, Ontario, that resulted in the closure of the plant for a few days. But we have been extremely vigilant and have so far kept it out of our plants, our big plants in Western Canada, which is so critical. Our Brandon slaughter plant has had none of the experience that has occurred south of the border, or frankly at the beef plants in Alberta. But it is, I guess the biggest concern is absenteeism. I think we can manage with all the new physical issues and the changes, but we are experiencing higher absenteeism, and that could become a concern. But so far, I think it's stabilized. I think we're achieving a new normal, and we're relatively optimistic. On the issue of food security, absolutely, this has been a devastating impact. I don't think there's yet a really credible third-party data to know, but we believe there's been some suggestions that already in the last 3 months, food insecurity in Canada has doubled. So the number of individuals that need help to feed the family has literally doubled, and it was a crisis before. In our case, our Center for Action for Food Security has been operating for 3 years. Just in the crisis, we've added a $500,000 donation, and we've now begun a campaign to raise a $2 million further contribution for food insecurity in Canada. And that's on top of a $2.5 million donation to frontline healthcare workers. Yeah, it needs work.
Thank you, Mr. McAlpine. Thank you, Mr. McGregor. And unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. I'd like to thank, hang on there, I'll switch. I'd like to thank le Conseil canadien des transformateurs d'œufs et volailles, Mr. Joël Cormier, président du conseil d'administration, Mr. Jean-Michel Laurin, direction, Aliment Maple Leaf, Mr. Rory McAlpine, premier vice-président, et aussi de la Fédération des producteurs d'œufs du Québec, M. Paulin Bouchard et M. Denis Frenette. Alors, merci à tous d'être venus partager vos...
Thank you, everyone, for having shared your experiences in this new world in which we're living.
So for our panel, for our members, our next meeting will be a business meeting next Wednesday. We need that to give the clerk's direction as to where we want to go with the new mandate that we have to continue until the end of the Parliament and beyond, if we decide. So next meeting again will be that. I could encourage everyone to start thinking about their witness.
Mr. Chair, just a quick point of order before you go.
Go ahead, Mr. Barlow.
Yeah, sorry. I know Mr. McAlpine had mentioned that he had a lengthy brief that he was going to submit to the committee. I'm just wondering, has that been distributed? I haven't seen that yet. And if Mr. McAlpine, I know there was maybe some questions you talked about that you were looking for answers for. Will that more in-depth document include some more information on some of the things that he spoke about?
Mr. McAlpine, have you already submitted the brief?
Yes, I submitted it yesterday.
Okay, and we'll make sure that every MP gets it, and yeah, we can. If there's any further points we could always send the invitation again if we want to extend that conversation. Is that good, Mr. Barlow?
Yes, thank you. And Mr. McAlpine had mentioned a couple of things in his shorter presentation and asked some questions, about the activism in Health Canada and some of those things. I'm hoping his some lengthy submission will have his insight on some of those things. And if not, maybe we can submit questions that he could answer later on as part of the submission.
Absolutely. Okay. Okay, thank you all, and have a great weekend, great safe weekend.
Juste une question, Monsieur le Président.
Monsieur Perron, allez-y.
Go ahead, Mr. Perron. Go ahead. Just a quick question. I put my timer on, and I think that I would like to have the full 6 minutes next time. I don't think I got the whole thing. I was timing it on this end as well, but I guess maybe I wasn't fast enough on the trigger. So I'll leave it up to you, Mr. Chair.
Someone keeping time, but did I? How many? I'll get you next time, but I don't know how much did we cut you off early? Est-ce qu'on vous a coupé tôt? Oui. Alors,
je crois que oui, mais il me reste.
I think so. I had over a minute left. You want it now? No. That's fine. That's fine. I think with the question that my colleague just asked, I was going to address it to Mr. McAlpine, but it was concerning about his brief, the more full brief. But that question's been asked. My apologies, Mr. Lehoux. I'll be more perspicacious next time, and I'll keep a closer watch. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Have a good weekend. Stay safe. The meeting is now adjourned.